Hello there. Welcome to my channel. We're going to go a little bit off topic on this one. Normally I cover e-ink note-taking devices, but on this channel I'm actually going to cover something totally different. We're going to talk about transformers, and specifically we're going to talk about some new collectible cards based on the Transformers toy line as it came out in 84 to about 86 and 87. So this is basically the result of a Kickstarter campaign, but it's also available, I think, in certain stores now. And it was meant to celebrate the 40th anniversary of the Transformers, but specifically, it's really a celebration of the marketing materials, if you will, for that toy line. And, when I say that, what I mean is like box art, and I mean, the type of write-ups that were done on each of the Transformers toys and the stats. All of that was part of the marketing, and all of that is what made Transformers so special in the mid-80s. So this is kind of a celebration of that. So what we're going to do in this video is I'm going to basically, share the box from the Kickstarter campaign, talk a little bit about that, and then we're just going to start opening up packs, and I'm going to get nostalgic, see if I can remember some of these names of these Transformers, and then talk a little bit about not anything that happened down the line or any of the overall lore, but specifically focusing on the Transformers that I remember growing up as a kid. So my engagement with these marketing materials like the stats and what have you, and what the toys were like and stuff like that. I'll just be sharing nostalgic reminiscence as we go through opening each pack one at a time. This video is going to have 4 packs, so why don't we go ahead and start to dig on in. So before we start looking at the card collection itself and start unpacking different packs, I just wanted to kind of share this. This is a replica of what it would look like to buy a mini Autobot, in this case Gears, back in 1984. And you can notice, the background artwork with the red on the grid. That's indicating it's an Autobot. If it was purple, it would be the evil Decepticons. And if we went to the back, what we would see is this kind of classic image in miniature. You'd see this a lot bigger on some of their bigger toys, and this came out in 84. And then of particular note is this basic section right down here below. So and the originally, I don't remember it coming in 2 different languages, so this is interesting. This might be a European version or something, but in America we would just have basically this top section filling this white box. So you'd have the image of the Autobot, you'd have a description of that particular character, and then you can see their stats. So these are the different stat categories, and where the line crosses is the particular rating. And there was like a little red transparent piece of plastic that you could put on top of this that would get rid of everything but the black and blue line, so you could see the stats easier, but you could still see it without it. So for example, strength was an 8 for Gears, and intelligence was a 7, and you can tell because each square is a point. So you can see over here on firepower, Gears was a 1, which is quite low, and you can see the key over there. Now the reason why I'm sharing this with you is that this part, the writing and the stats, were the elements that were created by the Marvel team. So Marvel had a direct hand in creating the packaging for the Transformers. They didn't create, as far as I know, this piece of art, and they didn't create this artwork either, but they created the lore that went into the packaging of the Transformers. So that Marvel connection was there from the beginning, and it was also reflected in the comic book series that Marvel introduced as well. But the lore writing came first, and then the comic book series came after that. So those are the 2 kind of intersection points, if you will, between Marvel and Hasbro as it relates to marketing the Transformers. So here I have another replica. This was Pipes. He came, I believe, in 85. And if we go to the back, you can see we have a different image This is when we introduced the Dinobots and Jetfire. We'll be getting to that as we go through the cards. But you can see what is more of a accurate representation of what we saw here in America, where the descriptions in one language filling the box, and then you can see that the different attributes are identified a little bit differently. So this is the classic view that I'm used to with these transformers. So here is the box itself for these collectible trading cards, and we can see a more blown up version of that packaging image that is on the back of most Transformers in 1984. And you can also see this is celebrating the 40th anniversary. So this campaign was originally started in 2024, so that was the 40th anniversary. We're now beyond that. And as you can see, this little tiny box contains 24 packs, 10 cards per pack, so 240 cards. Not bad for a little package. Let's go ahead and show a little bit of the art around the edges of the box, and then we'll start to dig on in. So on one side, we have, again, a little more of a blow up on that packaging that was on the back of Transformers that were sold in 1985. And then if we just kind of flip this around, we can see a little bit of the details of this particular pack. And then you've got, Bumblebee, Optimus Prime, Grimlock, a lot of classic Transformers right there. Now, if we turn to the smaller sides, then now we see slightly different artwork. This is now an excerpt from the Transformers comic. I have no memory of this particular cell, but you can definitely tell by the art style that's where it's from. And then if we turn it around, then we see even more artwork, a classic battle between Megatron and Optimus. So again, that's the intersection between the marketing of the toys themselves and then the comic books, both by Marvel. So here we are back to the top, and let's go ahead and start to open this thing up and start digging into these packs and getting a little bit of a nostalgia. There we go. And here we can see the packs. These are images of Metroplex, and we can see Superion. Again, this is the image that would appear on the back of the Transformers, and I believe this might be 1986, but don't quote me on that. If we go through the other packs, it looks like that's pretty much what appears on all of these. Go ahead and spill these out. And yep, that's what's there on each of the foils. Let me go ahead and organize this, and then we'll start to open up our first foil. Okay, let's dig on into pack number 1. And let's see what we've got here. All right, we're going to start off with, okay, this is a little bit of a piece of a larger puzzle. And I don't remember that character, but I think that was a member of a combiner that was called Predaking. And this was starting to become when I was starting to come out of Transformers. There is the back. Yeah, you can see it's part of a much larger picture. Again, this is another back of the box art. This is back when there were, I think this is back when, no, that's Metroplex and Trypticon. So yeah. So that's what that is for. This is also, I think, oh gosh, I want to say this is either 85 or 86, and I want to say it's Ramjet, the Decepticon. The Decepticons were initially Jets, Megatron, which was a gun, an actual handgun, believe it or not, and then Soundwave on the tapes. So this was a kind of further generation of the planes, and was I right? Ramjet. Yeah, I nailed it. All right, there's Ramjet. This guy. Now, there were a handful of Transformers that were what were called triple changers, and I think this is one of them. And I want to say that this is Astrotrain. Let's see if I nailed it. Oh, I did nail it. Okay, so Astrotrain would be, I think he was a train, a robot, and then he was a space shuttle as well. So Yeah, pretty cool transformer. Okay, now finally our first transformer from the 1984 series. This is the character Ironhide. Now Ironhide and Ratchet were both the same basic mold. Ironhide was red and was kind of a van of some kind, and then Ratchet was also a van, but was an ambulance as well. The character Ironhide, as depicted in the comic books and in the cartoons, actually had a head. You can see in this image, they actually tried to pretend that the windshield is the face of this robot. And the toy itself, the head was a sticker that went on the chair, which was in the middle, that was supposed to look like a head. So you'd look through the windshield to the chair padding, and that was supposed to be the face. It was clearly one of the ugliest of the Transformers. And there we can see the text there. Blaster was the answer to Soundwave. Soundwave was one of the Transformers that hasn't aged well in concept. So when Transformers was released, cassette tapes were how people listened to music, or in some cases how they recorded meetings or interviews on micro cassette tapes. So in that time, in 84 or through 86, and I think Blaster might have came out in 85, that was cool. You could have these cassette tapes that were, inside. Blaster, in this case, was a boombox, and then the cassette tapes would come out, and you could transform those tapes into animals. I think there was a lion, and a couple others I don't recall, for the Autobots. And this is one of those things that doesn't make any sense. I mean, nobody has boom boxes anymore, and they don't really work with cassette tape. So this is the one thing, unfortunately, that has aged in some ways probably more than any other Transformer style, but was so cool at the time. I mean, this was one of the awesome Transformers to get. And the tapes were like the mini Autobots in that they were cheaper. So you could buy, packages usually of 2 cassette tapes, either the Decepticons or the Autobots. And that was easier to obtain than the more expensive versions of it. So, yep, that's Blaster. Let's take a look at the back of the card, and there you go. All right, next up, oh my gosh, I think this is Springer. I think Springer is a triple changer, and you can see this card's a little different. So this card is just more of a standard. This has kind of a, I can't think of the effect, but it's kind of this metallic effect on the card. So let's go ahead and see if I've got that right. And yes, it is Springer. And yep, a triple changer. Looks like it was a car, a robot, and had some sort of aerial mode as well. For some reason, I think it was like a helicopter, but don't quote me on that. Here's another section of a larger puzzle. This is the classic 84 packaging that we've seen both on the box as well as on the example that I showed earlier. And there's an example of what the larger puzzle looks like. We'll put the full puzzle together if we happen to get it by the end of all these packs. Here is an artist card. So this is kind of in the style of the comic book, but this is a little more, this is better than what you would normally see in the comic book. And I see that it's signed. Let's see if we know who the person is who signed it. Oh, Bob Budinsky. Okay. Is the writer an artist? The Mirage is the character, I should have mentioned that. But I don't think he's the artist of this. Oh, no, those are his initials. Okay, fantastic. That's a cool little card. Mirage is one of the better toys. Again, the Autobots were predominantly cars or vehicles, with wheels. And Mirage was one of the originals from 1984. It was an F1 vehicle. And was really, in my opinion, one of the better toys of that time. So that's a cool card. All right, here's an actual picture of one of the toys, and this is the first combiner that ever came out. This is, it would form Devastator. They're the Constructicons. They were all construction-related vehicles. This one, though, I don't remember who this is. I'm going to guess Mixmaster. Let's see if I've got it. Yep, nailed it. Mixmaster. So on the other side, it has, it's basically like a concrete mixer. All right, and then the last Transformer we have is a classic villain from the original 1984 cast. This is Starscream. Starscream was portrayed in the comics and in the cartoons as kind of the number two, if you will, that was always conniving to be in control, but was always incompetent. And he was always kind of snipping at Megatron. This is the kind of person that you'd have at your side that's constantly critiquing everything that you do. That was the role of Starscream. And of course, he always failed because that was his character. All right, that's the first pack. Let's go ahead and dig on into the next one. Okay, we are on to pack number 2, and I just want to highlight, let's see if I can get this like so. Here in this box is all the elements of what's in the complete set. So there's what's involved. Let's go ahead and open this guy up, if we can. Oh, these are so hard to open. Don't want to hurt the cards. There we go. All right. Okay, fantastic. So that takes us to another card that shows what the toy looked like. In this case, this is Megatron, leader of the Decepticons. And if you look closely at this image, Megatron as a toy was awful. It was just absolutely horrendous. And this image doesn't quite give it justice of how bad it was. It was fine in terms of its replica gun, although of course you would never see anything like that these days. But at least it looked like what it was supposed to look like. The Megatron himself looked terrible. You can see a little bit of the gun barrel kind of jutted out from the waist. The arms and legs were funky and awfully thin. The head was completely missized. It was just a really ugly toy. And as they represented Megatron in the comics and the cartoon, they dramatically changed his look. Subsequently, in further generations of Transformers, they turned him into different tanks and different things and made him much more reasonable. But he was clearly the ugliest of the original Transformers that was released back in '84. So if we flip that over, there you can see a little bit about him. All right, here's another puzzle piece. This is from the Dinobots one. So this is going back, I think to... Actually, maybe not. Maybe this is from '86. Not sure. Yeah, that's the '86 backing card. All right. Here's another version of Blaster. Remember, in the previous pack, we saw the artistic version. This is the actual toy, which wasn't too bad. And we've talked quite a bit about Blaster, so I won't belabor that. Here's another puzzle piece. This is from the '85 puzzle. There we go. All right. Oh, gosh. There were 2 Transformers, both Decepticons, and they were the exact same. One was white, one was black. I think it was Runabout and Runamuck. I think those were the names. It wasn't one of the better toys. I remember that. I'm going to say this one is Runabout. All right. Let's see. No, it's Runamuck. All right. And I can't remember what year this one came out, but this was later on. This might have been an '86 release. This is an original. I believe this is Prowl. Let's see if I'm correct. No, Blue Streak. They both use the same mold. That's what kind of threw me. Blue Streak, Prowl, and I think another one. Silver Streak, I believe. Actually, Silver Streak was from '84, so I think this one might have been an '85 version, but using the same mold. But that's a classic Autobot, as is Wheeljack. Wheeljack is part of the original. So let's turn that around. There you can see about him. Here's another puzzle piece. So again, if we can get all the puzzle pieces, I'll put that together. This is from '86. This is from the Transformers movie, and this is Cup. I remember Cup being supposed to be a futuristic truck, very ugly, as were a lot of the '86 toys, in my opinion. That's when I started to kind of move away from Transformers. But yeah, there he is. And then here's another puzzle piece, which this is from the original, I think, because that's Megatron right there. So this is from '84. Yep. All right, that's pack number 2. Okay, I've already unpacked number 3, and I can tell you there's something interesting in here, and I'm not sure what it is. So stay tuned. But on our surface, this is another back packaging. I don't recognize it. So I'm guessing this might have been from '87. Let's take a look. And no, this is from '86. Okay. Here's another one. I think this is '85. And nope, '86. So there were a couple from '86 then. So these were both from '86, but they're very different. Okay, I didn't realize there were 2 different backings for the toys in '86. Very interesting. Okay, this is one of the Decepticon tapes, one of the original tapes. One was Rumble and one was Frenzy. So which one was this one? The other one was red. I remember that. They looked exactly the same. They would be a tape that would go into the sound wave, and then they would transform into this robot. One of the difficult things, by the way, was that when you put them together as a tape, the 2 hands would cup together and push in, and would push the head down into the cassette tape. But because, and there was a spring there, but because of that spring, that it would never be flush. Like these would kind of come out. So it was one of the more difficult ones to keep in tape form when it was transformed. But still, which one is this? Is this Rumble or Frenzy? I'm going to say Frenzy. Ah, nailed it. All right, there we go. Here's Gears. We saw Gears earlier in the replica packagings. Here's him again, and there's a little bit about him. One of my disappointments in this series, by the way, is that they don't have the stats on here. And the stats were so important to the lore. They really added something to the depth of the characters, and it was a key piece of the packaging were those numbers. Who was the strongest, who had the most firepower, and that you use those stats when you played with the toys, or I did anyway. So it's a little disappointing not to see the stats on these cards, but otherwise I've been fairly impressed. Okay, so this is the weird one. It's in a sheath, so I think this is a metal card. Yep. So there's Starscream. We've seen Starscream before, but not in this metal edition. Very nice. Really nice. Nice and glossy, and that's excellent. Okay, gosh, who is this? I want to say Trailblazer. I'm not sure. Let's flip it over. Oh, Trailbreaker. Okay, I was a lot closer than I feared. There's another Transformer that had the same mold, and I can't remember that one's name, and that's the one I was confusing it for, but actually I got Trailbreaker right. I never had Trailbreaker. I had the sense, I think I had a friend who had it, and it wasn't a very good toy. It didn't look that great. Anyway, Cliff Jumper is one of my all-time favorites. This was actually the first Transformer I ever owned. Many people will know Bumblebee. They'll know them from the movies or whatever. Bumblebee originally was a little tiny VW bug, and Cliff Jumper was a different kind of mini sedan, but in the same mold, and an excellent transformer. I love Transformers where when you transform it into a vehicle, you can move it around and you can't tell that it's a robot. Some, like Gears, for example, who we had earlier. Let me pull Gears back out. Gears always had its face facing down. So if I had the vehicle and I just flipped it over, you would just see the face, even though it was in vehicle form. And I never really liked that, and a lot of Transformers were like that, particularly the mini ones. But Cliff Jumper was different. Cliff Jumper, that head folded into, you can see the groove that would go into there, and you would see like a spare tire icon on the back. So a really nice toy, and one of the easiest to get because it was so inexpensive. So I have a real soft spot for this guy. Let's take a look at his back, and there you go. All right, we've got another piece of the puzzle here from '86, one of the 2 from '86. Okay, here we have another Constructicon, and I think I might have glossed over this, but there were 6 of them in total, and they came together, the first combiner that could form a much larger transformer called Devastator. Devastator was both cool and an absolute pain in the ass as a toy to put together. Very fragile. Once it was assembled, you didn't want to even touch it because it would fall apart on you. So this is one of those characters that contributed to that larger transformer, and I don't remember this one's name. Gosh, I'm not even going to give it a try. I'm completely blanking. It is Scavenger. All right. And then here we have yet another Starscream. Not much to talk about there. All right, let's move on to number 4. Okay, here's pack number 4, and we're starting, I can tell you already, this of course is one of those puzzle pieces, and this is clearly from '86 because that's Hot Rod. Hot Rod was in the movie. He eventually would become Rodimus Prime, who I prefer over Optimus Prime, but there's a long story for that, and it's basically because of how I interpreted the marketing material on the back of Rodimus. I never saw the movie, so I never knew how they portrayed Rodimus, so my vision of him was different than everyone else's because they went and saw the movie. Anyway, I digress. This is clearly a puzzle piece from that, and there it is. Okay, so this is the same one that was the same mold as Trailbreaker, and I didn't think I would remember the name, but I immediately remember the name when I saw this image. This is Hoist, and there is his details. All right, Shockwave was, I believe, in '85, so this is the second wave of Transformers to come out, and formed this kind of laser gun, I guess. It was better than Megatron, but in terms of, kind of a handgun, he looked a little more reasonable in his robot mode as well as his laser mode. I guess Megatron was a bit better in gun mode than the laser, but his robot mode was way superior to Megatron's. And I mean the toy, that's specifically what I'm referring to. And there is some information about Shockwave. Another Gears. Okay, we're going to keep going. Oh, this is another classic. This is a mini Autobot from the first '84 wave. And this is Huffer, if I remember correctly. I loved Huffer. The only thing that was weird about it was its arms were its smokestacks or exhaust stacks, rather. But they angled at this kind of down instead of up. So pipes, which I showed earlier in the beginning of the video, the replica toy, had them where it looked more natural, and this was kind of a weirder look because of the angle of the arms when they were transformed. But other than that, pretty cool toy. And again, the mini Autobots were cheaper, they were easier to get, so that was a big bonus there. Here is a more, I can't think of the name of it, a more glossier version of Cup, who we saw earlier. There we go. This is, I think this is Sunstreaker. This is one of the original Autobots from 1984. Let's see if I've got that right. Aha, fantastic. Never had him. He was an okay toy, a little goofy looking, not one of the better ones out there, but not terrible. This is just the logo for the Decepticons. There was a time where I could actually hand draw this. I think this was, I may be having this wrong, but I think this head is awfully similar to Soundwave's head, and I wonder if Soundwave was the inspiration for this logo. Not sure, but anyway, that's the logo. And this is basically telling you all the cards in the series. All right, I said this was Prowl last time. I was wrong, but who was it? Now I'm trying to remember. I think this was Blue Streak? Aha, second time's the charm. And then yet another Starscream. Okay, I think that's enough for the first video. We've done the first 4 out of 24 packs. Let me know in the comments if you're interested in seeing the other packs. I will say, on a very selfish personal note, one of the things that I've noticed is when I get cards like these, and I don't get them often, but when I do kind of start collecting a little bit, I tend to find that I buy these boxes, I rip open the packages, and then, you're done. That experience is fairly short-lived. So part of what I get out of filming this is that, I'm taking it a lot slower, and also it's committed to film. So I definitely have my own selfish self-interest in doing these shoots, but let me know if these are valuable to you as well, and I'll keep producing these accordingly. So that's the plan. Looking forward to your comments. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a great day.